getting into it now. A little bit more about the Manchester Synagogue attack. So this is from the Manchester Evening News, ladies and gentlemen. Inside my horrific relationship with the Manchester Synagogue attacker, which according to the Telegraph as well, ladies and gentlemen, was a cannabis-smoking university dropout. Despite claims to be a Muslim and devoted father, a terrorist had a string of criminal convictions and cheated on his wife. So he's just the bastion of the community. Right, he's just a moral bastion of the community. I hate the fact that they use the term Islamist, but anyway. Terrorist who carried out the Manchester Synagogue attack was a cannabis-smoking university dropout who cheated on his wife and was violent towards his girlfriend, it has been claimed. Jihad al-Shami, which, by the way, again, translates to struggle of the Syrian. That's what it literally translates to, struggle of the Syrian. Claimed to be a devout Muslim and devoted father, but he had a string of criminal convictions and was recently arrested on suspicion of rape. So he was already known to authorities, ladies and gentlemen. He was out on bail for rape at the time that he committed this, ladies and gentlemen. The alleged rape is understood to have taken place earlier this year in Manchester. The decision to grant him bail will release questions about whether he should have been in custody when he launched his murderous attack. Yes, of course he should have. Yes, of course he should have been. People have still been denied bail for things that they've said on social media, for God's sake. Lucy Connolly was denied bail. Wayne O'Rourke has been denied bail. I believe he's due to be released in the very near future, though however. Tommy Robinson had all his appeals rejected, you know, for simply putting a documentary up online, and he was kept in solitary and all of these things, right? Jamie, what does it say here? Here we go. So another thing as well, as Telegraph have reported, he's apparently not to have been known to security services or been on the radar of counter-terror police, despite the fact, this is the key point, despite the fact that in 2012 he was also suspected of sending death threats to a Conservative MP. John Howell, who was the then Tory MP for Henley, reported having receiving a series of threatening emails after he spoke in defence of Israel's right to protect itself. He said, from Jihad al-Shami, "It is people like you who deserve to die." Right, it's people like you who deserve to die. So they see it again. It's not just a case of, you know, I don't know if John Howell was Jewish. I don't know if he has anything to do with if Israel, you know, Israel directly. You know, you see so many of our politicians going to meet with Israeli officials and have the photo ops at the wall and all of this stuff. But again, this is seemingly a foreigner telling, simply because of his political views and views on a foreign place and foreign conflict. It's him, people like him that deserve to die. Doesn't belong in our country. If he likes Gaza so much, go fuck off to Gaza or to the West Bank or whatever and fight there. You know, don't come over here raping our people and then killing Jews in synagogues, right? But anyway, Jihad al-Shami apparently groomed an 18-year-old college student. A young woman who was groomed into a controlling relationship by the Manchester Synagogue terrorist that described how he pushed extreme views and repeatedly attacked her. The woman who left the country after the 4-month on and off relationship has asked not to be named because she is fear for her family back in Manchester could face reprisals. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. You got to fear that your family is going to be, you know, facing reprisals at this point. Because at least, this is the thing that always gets back to me. A lot of these people are just like organised crime. A lot of this is so much as organised crime. Right, but at least when you look at, you know, again, not always, right? You had a couple of psychopaths and loose cannons, right? But if it's to be believed, even, you know, FBI agents have sort of testified to this as well, or he's testified in support of people that have said this, like Michael Franzese and Sammy the Bulgarano, is that at least family members would be off limits in that, and understanding what it was like in the life that, you know, male members that were a part of it, right? They had to be killed, right, because they broke the rules in some way or whatever. They'd be killed, but the family, for the most part, would be taken care of, right? I'm actually watching Peaky Blinders at the moment. This is kind of a theme that sort of resonates throughout these networks. It's like, they understand what they're doing is wrong. They understand what they're doing is criminal and all stuff like this, right? But again, not so much in this instance, because you saw with the Sabinis that they attacked Ada Shelby and stuff like that. You don't always see that the family is off limits, and that's why, again, with the Sicilian mafia and a lot of people like that, Michael Franzese said, you know, they do go after family, stuff like that. But a lot of people, they have this code of honor, they don't go after families, right? It seems to be a uniquely Western organized crime thing. These people go after the family. So again, that's why, again, so many people are scared of speaking out about these things, because they know that their family will be put in danger, or there's a good chance their family will be put in danger. It's awful. That's why this shouldn't be tolerated. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why none of this should be tolerated. But she approached the Manchester Evening News on October the 4th after realising her former partner had carried out Thursday's attack. They met on a Muslim dating app called Muzmatch. don't know why I find that funny. I'm not laughing at her relationship either. I just find that Muzmatch is kind of a funny name for a Muslim dating app. It's supposedly the ultra-conservative, ultra-religious Muslim culture essentially meeting on a dating app, the Islamic equivalent of Match.com or Plenty of Fish. She says she is ashamed to admit the pair would regularly meet up at a local Premier Inn hotel when Al-Shami didn't want her to be around his family. We used to always meet at the Premier Inn. We would spend time there because he didn't want to spend time in his house because he lived with his mum and his brother. He used to spend time there a lot. She claims Al-Shami lied about his age when he first spoke to her, telling her he was about 24 when she was still 18. He's in his mid-30s, by the way. He was in his mid-30s. She says she discovered his real age when she found his ID, which he tried to claim was fake. He constantly lied to her about his relationship history, telling her he had no children when she says that he had 3 preschool children and an ex-wife. Extreme views. The woman says Al-Shami hit her on multiple occasions and tried to impose extreme views upon her. Recalling one occasion, she said, neighbours had seen me running out of the house. They called me a taxi. There were loads of situations like that. The woman who grew up in a Muslim family with a less conservative upbringing says Al-Shami would tell her she was brought up the wrong way, quote unquote. You see this with like Dilly Hussein and stuff like that, saying that the UAE and all of these other more, I don't want to say more liberal, but less extreme areas of the Muslim world, right, that aren't trying seemingly to colonize the rest of the world, right? Qatar maybe being the exception and stuff like that. What did Dilly Hussein say? I think they said like Dubai is like the USA of the Muslim world or something like that, as if it was an insult, right? Or the UAE was like the Texas of the Muslim world or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact post. As if it was an insult. Right? Because they're being brought up the wrong way. Because they're not being brought up to want to colonize the world and expand the caliphate, which is actually what Islam kind of demands. But anyway, a lot of them take it a lot more seriously than others. And a lot of them understand a little bit more about international diplomacy and actually getting along. Right? And the imam that we covered on Dinesh D'Souza's podcast before that says they would openly vote left and exploit the left because that's what allows them to fulfill their political goals. Tells you all you need to hear. She claims he would put pressure on her to wear traditional coverings and was desperate to marry her. It was little things like that what he expected of me. He wanted me to cover myself, full niqab, everything. He was proper pressuring me for marriage, but I didn't want to marry him. It was after 1 month and he was like, come to my house. He was very forceful. The former partner also recalls on one occasion, Al-Shami suggested he wanted to join the terror organization ISIS. She was horrified by his extremism, but never believed he would act on his beliefs. While pushing extreme views on her, Al-Shami would tell her to be, quote-unquote, dedicated to the cause. There's so many more people like this, ladies and gentlemen. This is a pot-smoking university dropout that wanted to go join ISIS and then committed a terror attack against Jews in a synagogue. How many more? You look at just the people on the MI5 watch list, right? You look at just them. You got like tens of thousands, about 45,000, I think it is or so, on the terror watch list. But you have so many that either the government doesn't want to look at, Prevent doesn't want to look at, the anti-terror organizations don't want to look at. Despite the fact that in 2012, which by the way, ladies and gentlemen, was 13 years ago, he was sending death threats to a Conservative MP. And you wonder why people are angry. We wonder why people are angry, ladies and gentlemen. But we don't help ourselves in this instance, ladies and gentlemen. We do not help ourselves. Because on this incident, Gary Neville, woke globalist monkey galore, right, blamed the Manchester terror attack on British people putting up flags. He said the division that's being created is absolutely disgusting, mainly by angry middle-aged white men. Right, always got to bring the self-hating, racial stuff in there, and admits he takes down Union Jacks on what I believe are his construction sites. The lesson of this one, ladies and gentlemen, is just quite simple. Don't be like Gary.
House. And then walking into the office, waking up obviously, seeing the news last night and the news this morning dominated by the horrific attacks within the Jewish community, just about a mile from here. And was driving home from Salford City last night. I was driving actually to Salford City, going down a Littleton Road, seeing 60, probably 50 or 60 Union Jack flags And on the way back, I went down the parallel road, which is Berrynew Road, which has got the Jewish community right at its heart. And they're out on the streets, defiant, not hiding or in fear. And I just kept thinking as I was driving home last night that we're all being turned on each other. And the division that's being created is absolutely disgusting. Mainly created by angry, middle-aged white men who know exactly what they're doing. Funnily enough, on one of my development sites last week, there was a Union Jack flag put up, and I took it down instantly. And some people...
Yes, it's the middle-aged white men that are the problem. Not a bunch of gang rapists that have been raping generations of British girls all the way back to the 50s, right? First cases of Pakistanis grooming kids, right, and their gangs going back to about 1955, the earliest that I've seen, potentially even earlier. I cover some of them in the Last Girl as well, because a lot of it is quite relevant when you see the treatment of... Nadia. Granted, she was a 20-year-old woman at the time. I think she was about 21 or 22 years old at the time that she was captured as a spear. But the ideology is very similar. The ideology is something that they definitely have in common, right? This is the self-hating, woke, liberal, weak, effeminate, emasculated man, ladies and gentlemen, to the extent where Joey Barton, I want to see if I can find Joey Barton's comment on Gary Neville's video. I want to see if I can find it, because Joey Barton, as you know, he has a way with words, doesn't he? He has a way with words. But I want to see if I can find what he says. His common sense with Joey Barton. He says, Gary Neville uses fuel for lube, pass it on. Yes, here we go. Joey Barton called him a little pompous champagne socialist gimp. And I can't help but agree with him, because when Gary was questioned, for example, it's a globalist stooge who's been rinsed relentlessly, to my great satisfaction, on what I believe is Have I Got News For You, for taking the Qataris' money, right, and going out there to commentate, I believe it was on the World Cup. But Avi Yemeni accosted Gary Neville on the streets of Davos at the World Economic Forum, and as you can imagine, ladies and gentlemen, when he was quizzed on a lot of these issues that a lot of people do take very seriously and have a lot of care about, he didn't exactly have much to say.
Gary, how you doing? What brings you here today? What brings you to the World Economic Forum?
I'm just having a walk down the front, mate. Just having a meeting with Janie.
Oh, how you doing, Jana? Janie, how are you feeling about the new Trump administration for Britain? Do you think he's going to be good?
But no comments.
No comments? What about Elon Musk highlighting the grooming issue in your country? Do you think that's a good thing?
Yeah, Manchester United.
Crickets.
Oh, look at that!
Yeah, man.
I've been. Was I not being useful before?
Yeah. 20 years now.
I love it. I'm copying it from her. Brother, let me ask you quickly. Do you think it was a good thing that Elon Musk is highlighting the grooming gang problem in your country?
I've got no comment, mate.
Really? Why not?
I've got no comment on Trump and Musk and all the rest of it.
So what brings you here, though?
What's brings me here?
No comment on the plight of hundreds of thousands to millions of young British girls that were systematically raped for their race and for where they come from, right, by people with an ethno-religious supremacy bent. Absolutely nothing to say. Disgusting human, ladies and gentlemen. And here he is getting rinsed on Have I Got News For You for taking the Qataris' money. He has no shame, absolutely no shame. I should absolutely be not taken seriously in any capacity for his political comments anymore. Maybe he should have stuck to football, but then again, as you'll see, ladies and gentlemen, even back in 2006, he refused to sing his own country's national anthem. But he wasn't the only one, mind you. He wasn't the only one. But again, I think, how far does this own anti-England, anti-British, anti-Western sentiment go? That'll do. So it's nice to see you getting taken to task for taking the Qataris' money. Yeah, it's just quite simple. With his outlook, he's emblematic of many of the internal enemies of Britain. He should just not be taken seriously. he should not be taken seriously. He's following in the same footsteps as seemingly as Gary Lineker, right, who famously called October the 7th that Hamas thing, right? So again, don't take him seriously. Don't take him seriously. If you enjoyed that clip, then make sure to go on over to the Voice of the Valleys X page at VOT_Valleys on X. We're also on Instagram at Voice of the Valleys. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Godspeed.